Cześć, hej, witajcie w trzecim odcinku ze Stanley Parables. Mam nadzieję, że wam się spodoba, jak nie, to nic z tym nie zrobię, ponieważ nie umiem w YouTube. Ho.
New content? What does that mean, new content?
No jak chcę tam pójść? Tam. Dobra, walcz, new content, nie. Dobra, oczywiście, że new content chcemy. Telefon Shreka. Zamknięte. Nie podoba mi się ta platforma. Już skądś kojarzę taką platformę. Tylko była o wiele mniejsza.
Hello, and thank you for playing the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. As you may know, the Stanley Parable was a video game released in 2013 on home computers.
No to.
After receiving critical and commercial success, it was expanded upon in 2022 with the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, a reimagining of the game for consoles and home computers. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe features exciting new content that broadens and expands the world of the Stanley Parable, delighting audiences the world over. Please, step inside and see what thrilling new adventures await in the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe.
Oh, well, this sounds delightful. I'm very excited to see the thrilling new Ultra Deluxe content.
No dobrze. Możemy wrócić? Nie może. 195 1.
Okay, so far it's an
Windy!
elevator. Nothing special yet,
Jaka
but
ładna
I'm
winda.
sure it's just the beginning of a mesmerizing adventure.
Guzik? Winda?
Is it broken? What's going on here? Should we be moving somewhere? Oh, there we go. All right, finally, at long last, it's on to the new content. I've never been more ready. Let's do it. I have to say, initial impressions of Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, mostly tedious. It's as if Oh, okay. Let's see the content. Give me the content, Stanley.
Nie. To sobie windzie. Moja obsesja. My precious. An elevator.
All right. All right, let's see. It's the jump circle.
Mówili, że w tej grze nie ma skoków. Oh my goodness! Przecież w tej grze był achievement za to, że spamowałeś ich, żeby skakać, ale nie ma tu skoków. To jest! Co dostanę? Co tu będzie? Co? Aha! Aha! To jest... Co to bez sensu? Dobra, cieszę się. Mogę poskakać.
Is that it? Surely that's not all the new content. There has to be something else, right? Goodness. Another elevator. Stanley, I have to say, initial impressions of this game are not positive. It's
Nie
just
znasz.
elevators and jumping. Is this what passes for
Dla mnie to jest
exciting new
fascynujące.
content? If this is new content, then I could just read you the whole dictionary. There's 20 hours of new content right there. Hell, I could count to 30 trillion. You could put that on the box. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, now with over 1,000 hours of new content. And oh, wait. There's more. Very good. Yes. I knew there had to be something else. Let's see it. I'm ready for whatever it is.
A więc idźmy.
That's it? Oh, you've got to be kidding me. You see, Stanley? This is what happens when greedy video game developers with no respect for their fan base rush a cheap expansion to market for no reason other than to make an easy dollar. And don't get me started on the level of craftsmanship that's gone into it. In fact, I'm looking right now at the game's trophies, and it's hard to believe one of them actually says, "Test trophy, please ignore." What quality assurance department signed off on this? I'm infuriated and I'm offended, and I intend to find these people on Twitter and hold them personally accountable. It's my fault, Stanley. I built up too much anticipation around the new content, I'm afraid. It could never have lived up to my expectations. If you're still with me, why don't we just reset the game and we'll try to get back to what the Stanley Parable is really about.
Nie restartuj, nie restartuj.
Just you and me having a great time together like always. What do you say, friend?
Nie, nie. O! A, nie, jednak nie. O! A nie! Tak, to zdecydowanie nie jest moje biuro.
Psst. Stanley, come over here. In the vent. I want to show you something.
Nie. Albo jednak i tak, ponieważ już znam tamto miejsce. When impostor is sensed. Tak, zdaję sobie sprawę, że ten mem umarł bardzo dawno temu.
Okay, you remember how cheap and unsatisfying the new Ultra Deluxe content turned out to be? Well, it got me thinking about the past and how much better the Stanley Parable used to be. So I made something special and tucked it away here where the game's developers won't find it. Just our little secret. Take a look. I call it the Memory Zone. It's where I've been storing all my favorite memories so I can relive the peak experiences of my life whenever I want. Experiences like the launch of the Stanley Parable on PC.
Wolność! Nie, nie. No dobra.
You see, Stanley, doesn't the Memory Zone remind you of how wonderful Stanley Parable was before it was sullied with a cheap PlayStation port? Remember back in October of 2013, when the game originally launched? Back then, video games had integrity. Back then, it all meant something. Oh, the waste.
Edycja kolekcjonerska. Ciekawe, czy jakbym wpisał 2013 do tamtego panelu w Office, to czykolwiek by się... czykolwiek... Fuck! to czy cokolwiek by się zmieniło. Serio? A mogę przejść pod? Oczywiście, że nie.
And over here is where I keep reviews of the Stanley Parable. Like this stunning triumph of games journalism, 10 out of 10 from Destructoid.com. James Stephanie Sterling writes, and I quote, "Where so many games that aspire to be more than games end up less than any form of art, Stanley Parable strives and then succeeds to be every game ever created." Did you hear that, Stanley? Every game ever created. That's how grand and all-encompassing the original Stanley Parable was. It was literally every game ever created. It was Skyrim, it was Persona 3, it was all of them, and now it's nothing. It's no games at all. It isn't even the Stanley Parable anymore. It's just a husk now. A lifeless husk with an hour of new elevator content.
Guziki. Te same guziki były w muzeum. Mogę je kliknąć? Nie. No cóż. Mogę sobie Czyli co? Kolejne muzeum? Tylko tym razem jest
Here's
muzeum
another moving passage, this time from GameSpot.com. The Stanley Parable is both a richly stimulating commentary on the nature of choice in games and one that offers some of the most enjoyable, surprising, and rewarding choices I've ever been confronted with in a game. 9 out of 10. Don't you get it, Stanley? The game was perfect. It didn't need anything else. It didn't need new content. All they had to do was transport it in pristine condition along to the PlayStation, boom, done. And they couldn't even do that. Couldn't resist the urge to go meddling with a beloved franchise. These were simpler times, Stanley. But I wouldn't give to go back to have it all over again. Wait, hang on. I don't recall this part of the memory zone before. What's this? What's down here? Oh no, oh God, no, Stanley. It's a collection of reviews from Pressurized Gas, the extremely popular online storefront for computer games. I haven't looked at these in years. I can't even imagine what's been collecting down here. Surely these reviews were glowing as well, weren't they? Honestly, I could not be bothered to play this game to full completion. The narrator is obnoxious and unfunny, with his humor and dialogue proving to be more irritating than entertaining. Unfunny! I'm not trying to be funny. I'm trying to make a serious work of art. I suppose I could write up a handful of gags to insert into the Stanley Parable, but the game is already such a densely layered web of profound philosophical insights that I can't even imagine where I'd have the room to stick them.
Ktoś sobie nie radzi z krytyką. No co prawda prawdopodobnie niekonstruktywną, ale wciąż.
Okay, let's see what this one says. While the idea for the game is good, for someone who prefers non-linear games, this preachiness gets annoying fast. Preachy? Stanley? I'm not preachy, am I? You can tell me if I'm preachy. Honestly, you can. Oh, goodness. This is actually quite shocking for me. Well, to be honest, I had always thought of the game's dialogue as being rather terse to begin with. You can't know how much fluff I cut from the game to get it to feel as light and airy as it... Well, I always thought it did. But maybe it wasn't. Oh dear. What an awful memory to have to hold on to. These black marks on my otherwise unimpeachable track record. I feel like a failure. Like I let these people down. Perhaps the Stanley Parable isn't quite as sterling as I always remembered. What's this one got to say? You constantly have to stop doing anything so the narrator can catch up with his long-winded explanations of what's happening. I wish there was a skip button. A skip button? Well, yes. Yes, I think we can do that. If I'm truly too preachy, then maybe letting you skip ahead for just a moment, surely it couldn't hurt. Not if it means we can strike these negative reviews from the record. Only positive reviews of the Stanley Parable. That's my motto today, and it's always been my motto. I'd do anything for the customer, Stanley. Yes, a skip button we shall have.
Dobra, więc pójdźmy do skip bet.
And here it is. Go ahead and give it a shot. I'll pop you forward in time so that the second my incessant droning starts to bore you, with just the push of a button, you'll have zipped right past it. It's what the players have been asking for, and I'm very proud to have delivered. No more listening to me rambling on and on and on. No. The Stanley Parable is a game for the people. And if the people want silence, then by goodness, that's what they're going to get. Well, don't sit around waiting for me to shut up. Go ahead and make me shut up. Here, we'll pretend that I've just begun an interminable monologue, and it goes something like this. The story and the choices, or what have you, and therefore by becoming it is, so on and so forth, until inevitably we all until the end of time, at which time everything all at once, so now you see, blah 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 blah. We've eaten too much and it can't be just yet, no, until 245. But the logic of elimination working backwards, the deduction therefore becomes impossible to manufacture. It went on for nearly 10,000 years, until just yesterday, here and there, forward and back, and never a moment before lunchtime. It can't be. It's the only thing there is. How many billions left until so much more than forever ago? Which is why I say, the story and the choices, or what have you,
Jezus
and
Maria.
therefore by becoming it is, so on and so forth, until inevitably we all until the end of time. Oh, you're back, you see. You were only frozen in time for a few minutes, but it was plenty of time for me to deliver a long, rambling monologue full of unnecessary verbal flourishes and lengthy ruminations on the nature of choice in video games. Of course, I happen to believe it was perhaps one of my more profound such ruminations. Not that, of course, you need a description of it, but if I had to describe it, I'd say it was perhaps less of a rumination and more of a treatise. Or maybe a manifesto.
Czy ruszyć
I'll outline it for you very briefly, and you can tell me what you think. Okay, so my theory is that any choice you've ever made is simply a series of choices made by the person who you are, or were, or will be at the time of having made said choice. That is to say, if by articulating a choice you've already made, you bring that choice into being, then by making no choice and saying nothing, are you not simply erecting in the sanctuary of time a monument to every person you've ever been, making every choice to which you've ever given your Greek gift of mortal and yet timeless thought? Or rather, do all of the choices you've ever made, in fact, make you more not this kind of person, and in fact do the very opposite? You see, it could in fact be both of these things at once, that you are both making choices and not making choices, and that they are both affecting you and not affecting you at the same time by virtue of the fact that you both are and are not making them. Okay, at first I was leaning towards manifesto, but now I'm going to circle around and slap the treatise label on this one. I think it has much more of a treatise vibe to it. But wouldn't you say that manifesto just has a much grander sort of tone? It has a mouthfeel that is rich with ambition and history. Ambitious history, if you will. See, now you've gotten me going back to manifesto. Heavens, at this rate, we're going to be here all day. Okay, look, I have a method for exactly this sort of situation, and I do find myself in this situation frequently. I'm going to say each word back and forth in repeated succession until I become sick of one or the other, in which case the word I am not sick of shall be the victor. It is an unimpeachable strategy, Stanley. It's rescued me from disaster in countless situations. All right, here we go. Treatise, manifesto. 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 Treatise,
Ogólnie w momencie jak mówiłem,
treatise, manifesto.
że...
Treatise, manifesto. Treatise, manifesto.
Nie wiem, czy to powiedziałem, czy nie powiedziałem, ale wiemy, że to pomyślałem.
Treatise,
Byłem święcie przekonany, że no, to nie może trwać w nieskończoność, bo
treatise,
to nie jest głos jaj, tylko rzeczywistość to nagrywał.
treatise,
Więc
manifesto.
raczej tego nie
Treatise,
zlupują, za bardzo nie
manifesto.
mają jak.
Treatise,
W końcu musi zgadać za co innego.
treatise, manifesto.
No ale jednak no...
Manifesto. Treatise, manifesto. Treatise, manifesto.
Jednak nie.
Treatise, manifesto. Treatise, manifesto. Treatise, manifesto.
Jeżeli by was zastanawiało,
Manifesto.
czy ja będę naprawdę
Treatise, manifesto.
przez całą grę swoją
Treatise, manifesto. Treatise,
robił w ten sposób, to
treatise, manifesto.
najprawdopodobniej tak.
Treatise, manifesto. Treatise, manifesto.
To sobie poprzeglądam.
Treatise, manifesto. 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 Treatise, manifesto.
What the fuck?
Treatise, manifesto. Treatise, manifesto. Treatise, manifesto.
Okej.
Treatise, manifesto. Treatise, manifesto. Treatise,
Jest jeden achievement.
treatise,
Zaraz są dwa achievementy, których chciałbym powiedzieć.
treatise,
Jeden achievement to jest...
treatise,
Kamera, nie ruszaj się.
manifesto.
Proszę.
Treatise,
Gałka.
manifesto. Treatise, manifesto. Treatise, manifesto. Treatise, manifesto. Treatise, manifesto. Treatise, manifesto.
Gałka, Jezus Maria,
Treatise,
błagam Ciebie.
manifesto. Treatise, manifesto. Treatise, manifesto. Treatise, manifesto. Treatise, manifesto. Treatise,
Dobra, wracając. Momenty w tej grze, które mnie bardzo zaciekawiły. Jeden to, żeby kliknąć w...
This is the story of a man named Stanley. This is the story of a man named Stanley.
Czy podgłośnię na maksa? Słowki. Plus. Minus. Plus.
This is the story of a man named Stanley. This is the story of a man named Stanley. This is the story of a man named Stanley. This is the story of a man named Stanley.
Zastosuj, zastosuj, zastosuj.
manifesto. Treatise,
Dobra.
manifesto.
Pierwszy achievement to jest taki, że... zobowiązanie, graj przez cały wtorek.
Treatise,
Czyli prawdopodobnie mam do 24 godziny w Stanley Parable-recenzje we wtorek.
treatise, manifesto.
A drugi achievement,
Treatise, manifesto.
to właśnie go robię.
Treatise, manifesto.
Kliknij w drzwi 420 razy.
Treatise,
420 czy 430?
treatise, manifesto.
430.
Manifesto. Treatise, 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 manifesto.
treatise,
To ja już
treatise, manifesto, 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 treatise, manifesto,
treatise, manifesto, treatise, manifesto, treatise, manifesto, treatise, manifesto, treatise, manifesto, treatise, manifesto, treatise, manifesto, treatise, manifesto, treatise, manifesto, treatise, manifesto, treatise, manifesto, treatise, manifesto, treatise, manifesto, treatise, manifesto, treatise, manifesto, treatise, manifesto, treatise, manifesto, treatise, manifesto, treatise, manifesto, treatise, manifesto, treatise, manifesto, treatise, manifesto, treatise, manifesto, treatise, manifesto, treatise, manifesto, treatise, manifesto, treatise, manifesto, treatise, manifesto, treatise, manifesto, treatise, manifesto, treatise, manifesto, treatise, manifesto, treatise, manifesto, treatise, manifesto, treatise, manifesto, treatise, manifesto, treatise, manifesto, treatise, manifesto, treatise, manifesto, treatise, manifesto, treatise,
Wróciłem.
manifesto, treatise,
Dobra, chyba rzeczywiście to się nie kończy.
manifesto, treatise, manifesto, treatise, manifesto,
O wyzwanie i...
manifesto,
no.
treatise, manifesto, 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 treatise, manifesto.
Okej, już jestem w 100%.
Manifesto, manifesto, treatise.
Dobra, klikamy.
Well there, sport. You really did catch me rambling on a bit, didn't you? But that's the power of the button. The minute I
Yeah.
start to go off on a thoughtless display of self-absorption. Okay, welcome back, Stanley. Now, I should say that the amount of time the button has been skipping through is becoming longer and longer. That last one was, well, I want to say maybe 30, 45 minutes? It's not unendurable by any means, but it's, well, there's really only so much I can ramble on to myself about.
Okej.
Stanley, please don't push the button again. It's been 12 hours. You've just been frozen there. I don't know why the skips are getting longer, but they're... Oh, Stanley, you're back. You're back. Oh, my goodness. I have someone to talk to again. Stanley, I think it's been a week. Or 2 weeks. I've been sitting here all that time. Just sitting here. Not a single person to speak with. And you'd think that that's just how it's always been, right? Me talking and you saying nothing.
Tak, dokładnie.
Oh, hello. It's you. You're here again. Welcome. I have had time to think about you and about us and about everything we've been through. I've had so much time, I stopped keeping track after a year. Have you ever sat down in one place and not moved for one entire year? Let me describe it for you. To begin with, there is only regret. There is only the turning wheel of missed opportunities. I felt nothing at all but regret for the longest time, Stanley. Days, months. I lost it all in a blur of the deepest longing to undo the past. And when that feeling had begun to subside, what took its place is what I can only describe as the collapse of every moment I have ever experienced my entire life. All of them collapsed down into a single instant. In that instant, I could see myself clearly, calmly, with a collected heart. It was an impossibly rich wellspring of both.
Okej. Chyba umarł.
But they didn't understand the game was never meant to be funny. It was meant to have a point. It was meant to speak to the human condition. But where are the jokes? Where are the jokes? They bemoaned, they screamed, they gnashed their teeth and said, entertain us. It wasn't enough. They had to leave a pathetic little thumbs-down review and make all of their pitiful demands. But then, he's talking too much, they said. First, he didn't entertain us, now he won't shut up. It's the inconsistency, it's the lack of accountability. It's the unwillingness to examine with an uncompromising heart the words that they are speaking into the world. As though there were no consequences for a lack of cohesion in one's assessment of others. But of course, absolutely anyone can leave a review. So here's what we get. We get...
Wentylator się usuł. Tyle.
The end is never the end, 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 is never.
Chyba zaraz wszystko zaleje. Chyba miałem rację. Światłość. Dzień. Nie mogę to wziąć. O. Ogólnie ta gra strasznie mi daje... Ta gra strasznie mi daje vibe... don't touch anything, please. Bomba? Robi się strasznie. A, to jest przekrzywione. O! Guzik. Skip. No to idźmy w stronę słońca. Albo i nie.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Okej.
Oh, good. You noticed my sign. Yes, I have something very exciting to show you.
Okay. 42 minuty. O, fuck. Dobra, może zanim pójdziemy dalej, to skończę ten już odcinek, bo nikt nie będzie oglądał 2-godzinnego odcinka. Dziękuję za oglądanie. Żegnam.